aside from the Kiffin thing and the Coker thing, Alabama is just kind of Alabama. We'll find out this year what they're going to do. Briefly, as the defending SEC champions, the defending BCS championship game losers. What's going on down on the plains this year, Carter? What do you think the Auburn Tigers have in store?
Well, they, like you said, defending SEC champions. A lot of people say they were just a lucky team last year. Of course, how they beat Georgia, just a miracle catch, and how they beat Alabama with the 1-second field goal taken back for the win. But they still have Gus Malzahn on X's and O's, so that's really all there is to say. I mean, they got Nick Marshall. The thing is, they lost Trey Mason, big-time running back, and a lot of people think it's going to hurt them. But I think Marshall is probably you're going to see a lot more Auburn throwing the ball this year, which is something they just didn't do a lot unless they had to. And so Auburn's still my pick to win the West. I think they're still a good team. They still got loads of talent. They've been recruiting, top 5 for the last 10 years, it seems. But they're going to be a good team, no doubt about it. In my pick to win the West, I think they're going to beat Bama again. I think they're going to handle LSU, and they're going to beat Georgia. And hell, I got them going to the college football playoff.
I'm not so sure about Auburn this year. They've been one of those teams the last few years. I've never seen anything like it in all the years of following college football. One year they're in the national championship game. The next year they're winning 3 games. Then the year after they win 3 games, they're in the national championship game. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I don't think they're gonna revert back to the 3-win season this year by any stretch, because I think Malzahn is the real deal. I think he's legitimately got the Gumps worried down there in the state of Alabama, and it's good news for Auburn fans, bad news maybe for Alabama fans. I want to say one thing about the so-called miracle games last year. I read an article. No, it wasn't an article. It was actually a couple of insiders from Georgia, in fact, that were telling me this. That play at the end of the game where the 2 Georgia guys tipped the ball and Auburn ends up making the reception, going in for a touchdown, that was not a miracle. That was actually an unintentional mistake. They thought it was a crack pipe, and so they were fighting for it, and, of course, they got away. And, But that happens down there. At least it wasn't somebody on a moped getting drunk running over the guy. That's going to do it for this week. Magnum, Uncle Lou, all joking aside, appreciate you guys calling in. You're welcome to call in anytime. As long as you don't play that retarded banjo music from Georgia, you can call us anytime. Thanks for the call. Good-looking sounding lady, thanks for the call. And that last Miami caller, tell Unc we said thanks. You guys have a good one. And if you want to catch us outside of Vols Checkerboard, you can find me on YouTube just by going to the Big Ball Daddy channel. Or if you're a Twitter guy or gal, at the Big Ball Daddy. And, of course, Facebook under my real name, Keith Ricker. Carter, send us home, brother.
You can find me at ACP Carter 45 on YouTube, Twitter. Facebook, it's John Carter. But, all right, guys, we appreciate it for all the listeners out there. Thanks. Be sure and check out the Bulldawg World Order on Saturdays, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, and also Cane Shades Radio every Friday. We argue a little bit, but, hey, Two Loco Radio, that's what we're representing here. Be sure to check it out. They got great stuff, band interviews, everything and more you need. But, all right, guys, thanks for listening. Go Vols.
Go Vols.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Good Saturday afternoon. This is the Bulldawg World Order, starring Magnum and Uncle Lou. Anytime.
All right, what's going on, guys? I'd like to welcome y'all to the third edition of the Bulldawg World Order. Uncle Lou, you were on yet another vacation this past week. You know, we need to be more like Uncle Lou. We need to take vacations every week. Where'd you go this time, man?
Well, I was at Hilton Head this week, and I know it seems like I'm on vacation all the time because I've been out of town since we started doing this show, basically. But that's not normally the case. We when we were in Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago, we don't normally take that trip every year. But the kids were starting back to school so early this year. We normally go to Hilton Head every year this time, but the kids were starting back to school so early this year they were going to be in school for our Hilton Head trip, so we decided to make an extra trip up to Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago before they started back to school, and then our regular Hilton Head trip was this week. So, but I'm back home now. No more vacations planned for a while. So, back here at Casa de Lou, back to normal here, and ready to rock and roll. Football right around the corner.
Yes, sir, right around the corner. And you had an interesting encounter. I know we talked a few times this past week. You had an interesting encounter with some guy who was apparently from Ohio, and it was a Notre Dame fan, and you got into a little argument. Explain that to us. What happened?
Now, of course, anytime Uncle Lou goes on vacation, especially during the summer to the beach or the pool or whatever, I have my Georgia Bulldog towel, my Georgia Bulldog cooler I'll take down to the pool with me, and I'll usually wear, some type of Georgia T-shirt or hat or something like that. So it's pretty obvious where Uncle Lou stands as far as when people see me. They know what I'm about. So anyway, I was laying out in the lounge chair by the pool a few days ago, and got to talking to this guy. He was asking me where I was from and different things like that, and he saw the cooler, and he's like, "Oh, you a college football fan?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, I'm from Ohio." Well, as soon as he said that, I pretty much knew where this conversation was headed. But since Uncle Lou's a nice guy, and I don't mind educating people, I went ahead and decided to have a conversation with him. So he proceeded to tell me he's from Ohio, starts asking me about Ohio State. And then he tells me Ohio State is going undefeated this year, making the playoff, and winning the national title. Now, he was drinking at the pool, but I got the feeling that he would have said that even if he was sober. And now, everybody knows that's not going to happen. Now, there is a possibility, and we're going to get into our conference predictions as far as who's going to win each conference a little later on. In forever. So to think that that's going to change this year is a little bit ridiculous to me. But then to make matters even worse, he tells me he's not even an Ohio State fan. He's a Notre Dame fan. So I'm sitting at the pool with a guy from Ohio who thinks Ohio State's going to win it all, and then he's a Notre Dame fan on top of that. So this guy obviously just can't get out of his own way. Now, this was a day or two before all that news broke about, Notre Dame having to suspend all these players for academic fraud. So I didn't get a chance to get into that with him. But I went ahead and told him that there's no chance Notre Dame's even making the 14 playoff, period. But anyway, he just got me so irritated and agitated. He's one of these people that no matter what facts you try to give him, he has something, well, but this year, or but this time, or but next time when we play, or but now since Braxton Miller's been there for 8 years now, well, none of that matters, And I just, anyway, luckily the place that I stay in Hilton Head has 3 different pools, so I just made up some sort of excuse, packed my stuff up, and went and moved to the other pool because I can't have stuff like that ruining my vacation.
Yeah, because I remember I sent you a text, and as soon as you told me that he was from Ohio and he was a Notre Dame fan, I was like, yeah, go ahead and slap him for me.
Yeah. Now, I just did cross my mind, and now verbally, I did abuse him verbally, but physically, I went ahead and let him off the hook there.
Yeah, and I know if you're talking about Notre Dame and what happened with them, I think it was actually a couple days ago, the breaking news about those 4 guys being suspended for academic fraud. But apparently it involved more than those 4 players, and I think it involved like a total of 22 players, most of them that were playing on the team going back to 2012. Now, from what I hear, Notre Dame is actually willing to vacate like all those wins if investigation is performed and something is found. So their BCS title appearance here, that could possibly never have happened for them. I mean, that's a real possibility.
They'd probably do a flip if they were allowed to vacate that game against Alabama. I'm sure they'd have no problem with that. They basically vacated it before they even played it. They didn't even show up for that game.
Yeah, you got a point. But the thing is, like, if it goes back to 2012, I'm not sure if it even goes back before that, but let's just say if it goes back to 2012, every game that these guys supposedly played in, now they talk about like vacating like every game these guys played in. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. The investigation's not even been performed yet, but I know they mentioned in the past that they're one of those schools that's not willing to sacrifice like academics for the good of the sports program, football program. Well, this has turned out to be false because it just freaking happened. I just think it's just pretty pathetic. It seems like every year we hear something about this now, and it's just.
Well, we've talked a little bit before. Notre Dame, unless you're a Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame is not relevant to modern day college football. I was thinking about this earlier today on the ride home from Hilton Head because I knew we were going to talk some about this today. But think about if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're a high school football stud, you've got, offers from all over, you're a 4-star, 5-star kid. Is Notre Dame even on your radar? I mean, the last time Notre Dame was really relevant in college football, these kids weren't even born. I mean, you got to go back to really the early 90s to when Notre Dame was even relevant. They've had a decent year here and there, but then they show up in the bowl game and just get rolled. I think it was LSU humiliated them one year. And then, of course, the game to Alabama, from a couple of years ago, everybody remembers that. I mean, they didn't even have any business being on the same field with Alabama. So they've had 1 or 2 good years, but as far as being relevant in modern college football, they're just not. And these kids today, these recruits today, they don't care about the good old days. I mean, they haven't even seen the movie Rudy, much less lived through Rudy. So it's time for Notre Dame to make up its mind. Do they want to be a football team or do they want to be, an academic institution, which is fine if that's what they want to be. But they screwed themselves. They've had 2 or 3 really good opportunities in the past 20 years to join a conference, and they keep choosing not to do it. And I don't care what anybody says, that's holding them back more now than ever with the Big Five and the playoff and the way things are shaping up in college football for today and for the future. If you're not in a conference, it's a hindrance. And Notre Dame thinking that it's better than the ACC, better than the Big Ten, better than the SEC, or anything like that, it's costing them. And then, of course, the academic fraud. I mean, we saw the same thing last year with their quarterback, Everett Golston, or whatever his name is, had to sit out all last year because he couldn't get on the do-right plan. Now they have him back, but they're getting ready to lose a bunch more guys now. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on up there. I guess we'll have to take the wait-and-see approach, how it all shakes out. But, what an embarrassment.
Well, I mean, you were just talking about them not joining a conference. I know, in basketball, they're like part of the ACC, and then in like football, they're not even part of the conference. How how can a school be part of like a conference in basketball but have nothing to do with it in football? I don't get that. Do you understand?
I don't know the rules and regulations of the NCAA.